Welcome to the show, everyone. I'm Cam. I want you to picture a boardroom table, spotless mahogany, fancy little water bottles, and a group of executives looking at a slideshow. They're about to approve a change to the maintenance schedule. It's nothing major, they tell themselves, just optimizing asset utilization. They don't call it a organizational change. Oh no. That would trigger a massive, painful management of change process. So they sign off on it. It's quick, it's clean, and it saves a neat little chunk of cash. But what they've actually done, without admitting it to themselves or anyone else, is trade risk for a bit of schedule efficiency. They've quietly nudged the system closer to the edge. And when things inevitably go pear-shaped months down the line at the front line, they'll look absolutely shocked and start pointing fingers at the poor Sparky or operator who made a human error. I see this happen all the time. As an investigator, you've got to laugh, otherwise you'd cry. We talk about frontline mistakes, but the reality is, those mistakes are almost always primed. And I don't mean primed like a pump. I mean priming in the psychological sense. It's those subtle, quiet cues from senior management. A manager saying, just get it done before the weekend so we can hit our targets, might seem like simple, everyday motivation. But to the worker on the tools, that is a loud, clear signal that schedule pressure overrides standard procedures. We prime people to fail, and then we're surprised when they do. And what happens after the incident? The silence from the executive suite is deafening. No acknowledgement, no genuine care. That leadership silence sends the ultimate, unmistakable signal. Safety is a nice poster on the wall, but commercial targets are what we actually worship around here. This brings us to the real bottleneck in workplace safety. What happens when the investigation is done and the leaders don't like what they see in the mirror? You perform a thorough ICAM. You map out the systemic failures, and you present recommendations that point directly to politically sensitive executive decisions. That's the moment that defines you as an investigator. It is a proper ethical crossroads. Do you soften the findings to protect a senior leader's career, or do you have the courage to tell the truth? Because when an organization hits a wall and leaders reject ICAM recommendations, it's never about the methodology. It's about power. It's about protecting the established narrative. Underneath almost every major incident, you'll find what we call incompatible goals. It's the classic silent tension. On paper, the goal is zero harm, but in practice, the goal is maximum throughput on a shoestring budget. We force workers to make these impossible, risky trade-offs every single day. We tell them to work safely, but we resource and reward them solely for speed. It's a setup. When those incompatible goals clash, safety is always the one that gets squeezed. And if the investigator doesn't have the guts to call out that executive-level tension, the report just becomes another piece of administrative theatre that protects the business while leaving the actual hazards completely untouched. So how do we break this cycle? We have to completely redefine what accountability looks like. We need to shift our entire mindset from who is to blame to what can we learn? True systems thinking isn't about finding the culprit and giving them a rap on the knuckles. It's about mapping the systemic influences. And that means we have to retire some sacred cows. Take the DuPont-Bradley curve, for instance. For decades, it's been treated like holy scripture in boardrooms. This idea that safety is a linear journey of cultural maturity, from reactive to independent, and finally to interdependent. But here is the truth. It's a myth. The Bradley curve focuses almost entirely on individual behavior, pushing this idea that if we just get workers to care more or be more mature, incidents will disappear. It completely ignores underlying engineering and administrative controls. It lets management off the hook by turning systemic failures into individual behavioral problems. ICAM breaks that myth wide open. It forces us to look at the physical defenses, the design of the equipment, and the organizational processes. It focuses on the system, not the player. At the end of the day, a high-quality, honest investigation is going to hold up a mirror to the leadership team. It's going to show them exactly where their decisions created the conditions for failure. So, I'll leave you with one final uncomfortable question. Are our leaders actually brave enough to look into that mirror? Or will they just keep blaming the person at the sharp end? Thanks for listening, and I'll catch you next time in the corner.